Dana Brown thinks that the roster is pretty complete. Maybe a tweak here or there, maybe a trade, but this roster, if it stays healthy, could be back in the dance next October. Do we buy this? We'll talk about this on this edition of the Locked On Astros podcast.
Jainel Diaz, this is Locked On Astros.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chansey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we update you joints for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman, and he is not Brett Chansey. He is Brandon delCastillo, and we are the Locked On Astros podcast. Thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day, whether it's on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe to us. Go make us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Go ahead and check us out. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. So Brandon, he is not just some random dude that I brought on this podcast. He actually was one of the guys that got me into the podcasting game back in, I wouldn't say 2015 or 2014. We started some podcast called Talking Astros that we took all the way to Sports Talk 790 for during the 2017 season, and we kept it afloat for a little bit. Then I kind of took on Locked On Astros, but I know that you do the podcast with your brother, but we've been doing this podcast basically for about 10 years between you and me, but I guess 18 years between you and I, but we have a lot to talk about today. I know that we're going to talk about the offense before Espada and Dana Brown's conference today. But Dana Brown essentially said that the roster is pretty good right now. It's going to go back to the World Series next year. Well, maybe not the World Series, but back in the dance. And next year, do we believe this? And they also said their jobs are safe. How much do we buy into that? And we'll go and talk about what happened offensively this year and what to do next. And Brandon, I wanted to hear a different side of the coin. That's why I wanted to bring you on. So go ahead and tell them where they can find you on social media.
You can find me on Twitter or X. It's X now, I guess, but it's at B-Ball Lawyer.
All right. So, guys, we're going to go and start off with the Dana Brown conference and Joe Espada. I know that Bob Nightingale earlier today put out a post or whatever you call it, and said that Dana Brown does not have a contract in place right now for 2026. They have a extension, not extension, but a option for 2026, but it has not been picked up yet. So I don't know if we would call him a lame duck manager, GM at this point. But the fact that it has not been exercised at this point, does that raise your eyebrows at all?
A little bit, given Jim Crane's history. I mean, with James Click, not winning a World Series and not coming back, you have to kind of wonder if Jim Crane's going to, see who else is out there and if anybody else might be a better fit for this club. The ironic thing, I think, is that this was the best year that Dana Brown had running the club. Mm-hmm. From all of his offseason moves to the in-season trades, going out and getting Carlos Correa for nothing. Just bringing on Correa for $20 million a year. Bringing in Ramon Urias, and I really like the moves he made in season. So he did all of that without trading away our minor leagues. He kind of rebuilt it, kept our top 5 prospects, and so I actually really liked what Dana Brown did this year. Eric, the question is, was it just the injuries? Was it just the injuries, or are these guys getting old and we're supposed to expect the injuries? I mean, what do you think? Because the main injuries towards the end were Jordan and Pena, and they're pretty young. So I think really it was the injuries, and we should probably look forward to having a pretty good team next year. But yeah, I mean, you never know with Jim Crane if he's going to make sure that he has to go out and find out if there's anybody else that can maybe run this a little bit better. Is Jeff Luhnow an option?
Well, I know that Dana Brown was asked several times, are you still the GM of the Houston Astros? He said, yes, I am still the GM of the Houston Astros. I plan on being the GM of the Houston Astros tomorrow, the next day after that, until somebody tells me otherwise. But so he plans to carry on the torch and keep the train going, so to speak. And he's already laid out some groundwork for next year. But Joe Espada is also kind of on a hot seat. I know we see a lot of managers being fired. Twins manager, you have the Angels manager, the Rangers manager.
The Rangers manager is gone, yeah.
Yeah, so there's several other managers I can't think off the top of my head. But
well, AJ Hinch might be available.
You think?
Well, yeah, I mean, if they don't re-sign him, I mean, we got to see how the postseason plays out.
What if they go to the World Series? They're gonna re-sign him.
Oh, well, you would think so, but is there any interest in AJ coming back to Houston at all? Even if it's just his agent telling him, hey, maybe we should negotiate a little bit and throw some feelers out there, and they at least get some more money from Detroit. It could be an interesting offseason from that perspective.
So the Astros could be holding on to Dana Brown for now, but if a better option comes up at some point, not Dana Brown, but Joe Espada, could a better option comes up, maybe they can go for AJ Hinch at some point. If they want to go that route, if somebody else comes up that they're like, I can't miss option, maybe they go for that route. But at this point, Dana Brown said that Dana Brown is I'm getting all my names confused today, but Joe Espada is under contract for 2026. So right now he is the man. And both men talked about the injuries. And I know that recently on the podcast, I said that if the team was healthy, the Astros would have had 2 to 3 more wins than they did, possibly making the playoffs. I know Brett said they possibly would have gotten to 100 wins. But I think that Dana Brown today said he agreed with me. He didn't say I agree with Eric Huysman, but he said that they would have got 2 to 3 more wins. What's your take on that? If the team was healthy all year, I know it's hard to say all year because you're going to have injuries, but if you didn't have a league high 18 injuries at one point, what do you think this team could have done?
Well, yeah, I think you're looking at, in that case, you're looking at least a team in the 90s. With wins, a healthy Jordan all year, Jeremy Pena and Jake Myers, when they're having career years, don't get hit, injured in the beginning of July. Josh Hader's able to close games down. The most important thing about Josh Hader being there is that you had Brian Abreu in the 8th inning. You had Brian King in the 7th. So it really affected the whole bullpen. That was the big thing with Hader. Not that Brian Abreu couldn't handle the 9th, although we saw him struggle, here and there. But I mean, yeah, I think you're looking at a 95 probably win team. I thought they needed 88 wins. I said it early in the year that the 88 wins gets them in. They fell 1 game short of that. 88 would have gotten them in. They lost the tiebreakers. So, you can blame the injuries, and they absolutely had a huge effect on the year. The question I have for you, Eric, do you feel that this last month, Joe Espada maybe lost his clubhouse?
Well, I know you have the Framber Valdez incident with Cesar Salazar. You have whatever happened between him and Carlos Correa, whether it's you got to get this team going. What's going on here? The team did win a lot of I want to say they won 5 out of the last 7 games, something like that. But it just wasn't enough to get the job done. But yeah, I think that he did lose some of I think with the fact that they didn't crumble as much as the Tigers did, but the Tigers did enough to rebound. They had the tiebreaker over the Astros, and the Guardians just were red hot and they played their way into the playoffs. So we don't know. And like I told Brett yesterday, I think the fact that Joe Espada is a good leader, he didn't let any frustration show on his face. He didn't let anything get out to the public, and everything was kept behind closed doors. We might hear whispers about what's going on, but we don't really truly know what's going on. So until somebody comes out and says what really happened, we don't really know. So, Brandon, we're going to go ahead and continue this conversation. Thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Hey, Astros fans, there's nothing like catching a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person, but actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. You're in queues, login screens, surprise fees. It takes the fun out of it. That's why Brett and I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You can always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all the fees are included. So the price you see is the price you pay. Whether it's postseason tickets for 2026 or opening day tickets for 2026, you get the prices that you want. Fees are included. Know your total upfront with no surprise fees. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. While we're talking about money, most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401k, properties, or investment. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life all together in one clean, easy-to-use interface, all on your laptop or on your phone. So Monarch Money is built for people with busy lives like you, like me, like Dana Brown, Joe Espada. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch Money is just for you. It does the heavy lifting for you, and you can look at all your accounts within minutes and finally have control of all your money. So don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONMLB. Hey guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Whether it's on YouTube, go ahead, subscribe to us. Go and make us first listen. Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, go and check us out. And Brandon delCastillo, the baseball lawyer, has joined us. Brett's on a little vacation for one day. He'll be back tomorrow. I'm taking the day off on Thursday. But right now we are talking about Dana Brown and Joe Espada's press conference today. I know a lot was made about the injuries. And of course, when you have half the 100 games missed by Yordan Alvarez, then Isaac Paredes, the big stabilizing force to this Astros lineup, he misses a lot of games. And then you have Jeremy Pena miss some games, and Jake Myers, who finally figured it out, he missed a lot of games. Yes, you can point some to the injuries, but at the end of the day, they didn't do a lot towards offensively. Like, the offense was one of the worst in baseball throughout the year. I know sometimes they went on a little hitting spree, but for the most part, they just weren't the same team that they've been in the past, right, Brandon?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. They would do just enough. Even the first 3 or 4 months, they would do just enough to win a game with excellent pitching, and then they get that one big hit they needed. The last 2 months they never got that big hit. The pitching wasn't as solid as it had been. Fromber, up until that last couple of starts was not the Fromber we'd gotten used to, and so they did not hit enough. They didn't score enough. They didn't get the big hits when they had runners on. And so that was a big problem. But again, you're doing it all without, a lot of your key batters, maybe your most important batter in Yordan Alvarez.
Yeah, and the Astros were 23rd in baseball with batting average, runners in scoring position with 245. The teams that were below them were the Twins, the Mariners. So, as much as we complain about the Astros offense, the Mariners weren't good with runners in scoring position, but they found a way to win. I know they did with better pitching. The Astros pitching at times was good. You had Hunter Brown that was pretty consistent. You had Framber Valdez that was like this, and then bloop, and then like at the very end, right when he had to show it for the free agency, he kind of showed that he was there. But offensively, you're so used to this team hitting a lot of home runs, but you have the Dodgers. Oh, sorry, this was I'm looking for overall, but the Yankees were leading baseball with 274 home runs. Then if you scroll all the way down, I guess the Astros weren't terrible, but they're 16th with 182 home runs. That's better than they were at the beginning of the season. They're near the bottom in terms of home runs. So they did hit kind of turn it on home run wise towards the middle of the season, but they just never seem to find the consistency. And that's one of the things that Joe Espada and Dana Brown both talked about is how does this team find the consistency, whether it's being less aggressive or just taking more pitches. But Dana Brown did say that he thinks this roster as is, if they stay healthy, is going to be good enough to get back to October. Whether they a trade comes about that improves the offense or the roster as a whole, he'll take it. Whether they sign a free agent, they'll take it. But Brandon, I want to ask you, which free agent in your mind of the Astros is a must resign?
An Astro now that's current.
Yeah.
I don't
Hector
know.
Neris, right?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a must resign. I'm ready to let Framber go and get his money. I'm ready for. I wouldn't mind having Caratini back. I thought he was a big part of this team, but there are other catching options out there. I don't know if there's a must from this team that you have to have back.
Caratini, if I had to say a must, I would say Caratini because of what he offers, not only as a backup catcher, he could play first base, he can be a DH, and he's been one of the most consistent hitters the Astros have had
switch hitter
all year. Yeah, switch hitter. Yeah, so the Astros don't have a lot of left-handed hitters anyway, outside of Alvarez and now Zach Cole. Zach Cole kind of came out of nowhere. So does he have a place on the Astros roster next year? So I'm sure he does with what he did towards the end of the season. Cam Smith, what can he do? So there's a lot of.
Is a left-handed bat priority for you, Eric?
It seems to be for Joe Espada because they do like to do the sabermetrics and the analytics and everything about I want to have a righty, lefty, righty, and make it a little bit harder for the opposing managers with bringing in the relievers and everything. But I think sometimes the Astros are a little bit too right-handed, and that hurt them this year. So, yes, I think the Astros need to have some left-handed hitters. That's why I was glad that Zach Cole came in and actually succeeded. That gives them some other options. And Caratini is somebody that I would like to keep. I don't think he's going to cost a lot. But Brown did say that we're going to keep open every avenue to get better. And so if bringing Caratini is one of those cheaper avenues, I wouldn't mind taking that. But I agree with you. Framber Valdez, if he comes back if he somehow, I don't think he will, but if he somehow accepts the qualifying offer, comes back and plays for the Houston Astros, I'll take that. But I'm pretty sure he will not. I'm pretty sure some team will be like, you know what? We can fix this guy. But one of the biggest stories we'll probably have to talk about next, and I really, really, really want to get your input. Where's Carlos Correa going to play next year? Is it going to stay at third base? If that's the case, where is Isaac Paredes going to be playing? Guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Hey, Astros fans, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the apps. Whether it's the baseball playoffs that's starting right now, or the basketball that's right around the corner, or the NFL, whether it's the Texans, are the Texans going to beat the Ravens? No matter what it is, go ahead and check out FanDuel. And makes watching football more exciting when you have a little bit of something riding on the action. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Hey guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Whether it's on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to us. Go and make us first listen. Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, go and check us out. My name is Eric Huysman. He is Brandon delCastillo, and we are the Locked On Astros podcast. Well, at least for one night, he's part of the Locked On Astros podcast. But I always appreciate you coming on, Brandon. It reminds me of the old Talking Stros days when we were one of the few podcasts out there. I remember it was Lima Time, and I think there's AstroTurf and a couple other podcasts. But our slogan back then was what? We talk Astros baseball when no one else does. But
yeah, I mean, it's 2014. Nobody was really talking Astros baseball. So
yeah. So I know the situation has changed. A lot of people really care about the Astros now. And Joe Espada said that it sucks that the fact that they are not in the playoffs this year. And this is a playoff caliber team. And they know that this team should be in the playoffs. And with a few adjustments and a few people staying healthy, he expects to be back in the playoffs next year. One of the things that was also brought up was, what are you going to do with the logjam at third base? Isaac Paredes was nursing a hamstring. That's why the Astros went out and got Carlos Correa in the first place. But now Paredes probably is going to be healthy when he comes back in spring training. So where do you play Isaac Paredes?
Well, I think you have you could, if Paredes can give you any time at second base, and I'm not talking about a good number of games. I'm just talking about, maybe 5 to 15 games at second base. Then you've really got Paredes that can fill in at first, second, third, DH, and you can rotate even when everybody's healthy with Jordan in left, Altuve in left, Altuve at second, Correa at DH and third base, Paredes at second, third base, and first. Christian Walker at first and DH. So, you can get everybody in that lineup all together and still have a little bit of flexibility, give people days off, give people some DH days. You're going to need to rest Altuve more. You're going to need to rest Correa more. You're going to need to rest Jordan more. So all of that, I think, can still play in. What are you going to do? Where are you going to find that extra left-handed bat? And is there a left-handed center fielder you can find? Is there, do you go out and do you know of any left-handed right fielders that might be free agents on the market?
Well, where are you going to play them? You already have a loaded outfield. You already have Jake Myers, and then you're going to have Zach Cole playing left field, or are you going to have Alvarez playing left field, or are you going to have Altuve in left field? And where are you going to play Cam Smith? Because I know Cam Smith became a platoon player in the second half, but I know that they're expecting him to be an everyday player next year in 2026. Jesus Sanchez, I'm pretty sure he's going to be DFA'd or traded. Non-tendered. That's what I meant. Yeah. So why get a outfielder? You're already loaded with outfielders at this point.
Yeah, I guess you could always trade Paredes. He would be the most, the guy that's easiest to trade. The problem with doing that, Eric, is he's the only guy that sees pitches. He's the guy you need. He's the guy you need in your lineup that will actually take pitches and work a batter, work a pitcher. That was the only guy we had, and it was a big drop-off when he went down. It was evident. that we were missing him. And so I think it's a big deal if he's not in your lineup. It may come down to he is the easiest guy to trade. Does anybody want to take on Christian Walker? That might be if you can find somebody to take Christian Walker, maybe you do that and you put Paredes at first.
Well, you can look at how Christian Walker did away from Dyken Park and say, hey, this is what he did away from home, and this is what he could potentially do at your park. You can throw in some money and maybe get some type of prospect back, or get a reliever, get a kind of fringe starter or something in return. But Christian Walker is likely the guy that I would see. He does have some trade value. He did lead the Astros in home runs and RBIs. Granted, that's not saying much, but I don't think that they're going to trade Paredes. The whole purpose for him coming to Houston was for the Crawford boxes and the fact that he can take pitches. They're not going to trade him. So he's probably the last person that they'll trade. I think that I'm not going to say that he's going to be a lifetime Astro from this point, but I don't think that they'll trade him. So they're going to have to find some way. So I guess that brings up the next question. Jose Altuve, is he in full regression right now? Was this just because of his move to left field, or is the Altuve that we saw, who still hit 20-something home runs, is this the guy that we're going to see from now on?
I certainly hope not. I would not be surprised, Eric. I doubt he would ever say anything, and no one in that clubhouse will ever say anything. But, I don't know if he was playing with an injury. He's getting older, though, and so that comes with the territory, becoming 34, 35 years old, 36, was he playing with an injury? Is that regression what we're going to have to expect from Altuve moving forward? I mean, this is the guy that, we love in Houston. We can't say a bad word about him. He's the man, so we're going to have to deal with it if it is, whether or not. I'm going to hold out hope that something else was going on, because I don't want to believe it right now. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt this year. But yeah, I mean, it was a little frustrating, the last 2 months watching Altuve play.
Yeah, I know maybe we need to get Altuve's people in touch with Albert Pujols' people, and maybe they can help with the foot issue, because I know that's something that he dealt with a lot throughout his career. I think his was something a little bit different than what Altuve was dealing with, but I don't think he was dealing with it the entire season, but definitely in the last few weeks he was dealing with it. So did that hamper his entire season? No. There were times that he was carrying the Houston Astros. Him and Isaac Paredes were part of the reason why the Astros turned it around. But then Paredes went out, and the Astros went to this high once they swept the Dodgers. Then all of a sudden it was a downhill slope from there, and they finished the rest of the season with a sub 500 record, and the offense just could not just get enough runs. And I think they scored in the last 52 games, I think they had 26 games where they scored 3 runs or less, or something crazy like that. And you wasted so many great starts from Hunter Brown, and then you had Framber Valdez go out there, give up 6-7 runs in some games, but other games he looked like the old guy. So it's frustrating, but I haven't heard you talk about this guy, Jason Alexander.
I was just about to, man. You're starting to
throw
throw it out.
Ramirez, or is he for real?
Well, you're the one talking about wasting good starts from Hunter Brown. I'm like, what about wasting good starts from Jason Alexander?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can go into next year counting on him doing the same thing, just because the underlying analytics really didn't say he was supposed to be doing what he was.
Right.
But he continued to do it. So, I think you have to go into next year maybe looking at him as a number 5 starter or a depth piece, but hoping that you can still get what you got this year. You cannot rely on him being a 2 or 3. I think you need to pencil him in as your number 5 guy and hope and pray that he puts up the same kind of stats and season that he did this year. That'd be fantastic. You need to go out and get two starters, 2 legit starters. You're probably going to have to non-tender Luis Garcia. You're probably going to have to non-tender Jesus Sanchez. You don't know what you're going to get from Arrighetti. You've got Javi. You've got we'll see what you can get out of Ty France. He looked good that last game, but that was the last day of the season. You don't know really how into it the Angels were that day. You've got some options. Blue Ball and Colton Gordon are depth pieces. I'm not sure that that's where you really want to go into a season relying on those guys. So I think you need to get 2 mid-level guys at least. You're not unless Fromber somehow takes that qualifying offer and comes back.
Well, let's pretend like this is a sheet of paper. Let's pretend like this is a resume. On the one thing I can say about the pitching coaches, they brought in some dude named Brandon Walter, Jason Alexander, and made them not studs, but pretty decent, serviceable starters. I'm sure free agents, pitchers across baseball are taking note. And they're like, oh, look what the Astros pitching coaches are doing with these guys. What could they do with me? And so maybe some guy that's a fringe, like somebody that maybe used to have a top prospect, he hasn't found the right stuff at the big league level, can maybe sign a contract with the Astros or something. But I think there is some draw coming to the Astros because of their analytics, what their pitching coaches can do. Because, not just the starting pitchers, but you have some of the bullpen arms that come in, Kurtz, Orts, and some of these other names that the Astros have picked up. Man. Yeah. So there is something to be said. Yes, they're not perfect. These guys were not like top names to be in the first place. So they're human beings. But what these pitching coaches can do, that has to be a draw. So so I guess that's something that the Astros have going for them. But I still would like for the Astros to do something offensively to upgrade, but maybe Dana Brown is right. If the team's healthy, maybe they can produce better. But I know Alvarez struggled even to start the season. So I don't know what the answer is. Are you going to mortgage the farm even more to go trade for somebody? I know Jim Crane, is he going to go? You only have like $30 million to underneath the luxury tax threshold. So I don't know what the answer is. I think we're too early on. We don't even know if Joe Espada and Dana Brown are really the manager and the GM at this point.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It is a question. I think Dana Brown and Joe Espada. If you're betting, you would bet that they'd both be back next year. Yeah. The one thing that you and I don't know, again, that the major question I would have regarding either of them is whether or not Joe Espada lost that clubhouse the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I guess that would be that. Like, if there's any insiders watching this podcast, let us know, because I don't know if we know what really happened those last few weeks, whether it's a downfall, what happened with Framber Valdez and Cesar Salazar, just whatever happened between him and Carlos Correa. What happened between there to get where they were, because other teams had a plummet. I know the Mets had almost a worse plummet than Houston Astros did. I know Steve Cohen came out and apologized. I don't see Jim Crane coming out and doing that. But Jim Crane, I know Dana Brown can say what he wants to say, but Jim Crane is a very involved owner. So we'll have to see what happens. But Brandon, once again, thank you for coming on the Locked On Astros podcast. Always enjoy having you. And guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day, whether it's on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe to us. Go and make us first listen. Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Go and check us out. And Brandon, you can go ahead and say Go Astros on the way out.
Go Astros.
All right. So how many wins do you think the Astros get next year? Hurry.
Look, I think they're probably the best. if they're healthy, they're the best team in the AL West. We'll see what they do with the pitching. I think they need to add one more back end of the bullpen guy, and like I said, 2 mid-tier starters. I'm talking in the $15 million range, maybe less for one of them. But I mean, like a Chris Bassett type or something like that. It's not going to be anything special. I think they just need to add. They got to add some arms, and I think that if they're healthy, they'll be the best team in the AL West. Okay. Actually, we'll see what the A's do, because if the A's have a good offseason, that's the team I would be afraid of.
Okay, that was your extended edition of the Locked On Astros podcast. So we'll see you later.